Hi everybody, this is Miss Elissa, and I am here to talk to you about spooky books. So I feel like in all of my interviews that I've been doing with staff, autumn or fall is a really favorite season, and I know currently sitting here recording with Jeff Milo, who wears a spooky shirt like almost every day of the week. So I just wanted to really get into the spirit of the season this year and make sure that I was reading the spooky books that I was ordering during the time of the season so that I could better make recommendations for folks. So I'm going to take you through some spooky books, some cozy mysteries of things that I've already read, things that I'm currently reading, and books that I'm looking forward to reading yet this fall. So without further ado, we're going to get started with the books that I've already read this season. I recently finished Ghost Squad by Claribel A. Ortega, and this is a book about, I think she's about 12 years old, a girl named Lucy who lives in Florida, and she has this ability to see the spirits of her family members. And they all exist as fireflies out on a tree in her backyard, but then she can also see like their human forms manifest. And this dark force kind of comes in and starts like sucking away her beloved family members. And she and her best friend Sid and Sid's grandma, whose name is Mabbitt, form this little team called Ghost Squad, complete with jackets. So they are doing this battle to find whoever is at the heart of this evil force and to bring back Lucy's family members from whatever darkness they're being pulled into. And the things that I loved about this book are that it's just rife with 80s references. So I'm guessing Ortega must have been a really big fan of the Goonies because the Goonies feature heavily in this book, including Babette's cats. She has several cats, all of whom are named after Goonies characters, and the cat called Chunk features very prominently. So this book is pretty action-packed, and I really love that it features a Dominican family in Florida, and it kind of delves into like the history of Florida, like monks and witchcraft and stuff like that. So it's a pretty tame spooky. There's a little bit of monster action, but it's a pretty cool book, pretty fast paced. Now another book that I read and I really liked, Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. And this one is such a cool book because it's just like this great mashup of genres. So Iris is the main character, and she is a black girl, and she lives with her family. So right out the gate, we get this realistic fiction element, just like black joy, black family existing. And she has a best friend named Daniel, who also his grandma features prominently. So that's kind of an interesting thing that it has in common with Ghost Squad. So it has that realistic fiction element, and then it has a history element to it because Iris and Daniel, they find a cemetery kind of in the woods by their house, and then they learn about how cemeteries used to be segregated. So they find this forgotten cemetery literally covered in leaves and stuff like that of another black girl who passed away decades before, who it turns out has a connection to one of their family members. But they end up doing a school project about segregated cemeteries and then also when their school was desegregated. So there's this really cool historical fiction element to it. So it's kind of giving you a history lesson along with that. And then also it's a great intro into horror because there's this ghost who is literally haunting Iris. So the girl that they find in the woods keeps coming in through her window. So there's like a little bit of spookiness. There's not really violence in this one. It's a lot of ambiance and it takes place in the winter. It's such a cool and well done mashup of genre. So I really enjoyed that one. So I'm currently reading a couple of books. I'm reading The Ghost Hunter's Daughter by Dan Poblocki. And this one is about a girl who's in middle school and her dad is a famous paranormal investigator. But there is some differences and some people take issues with the way that he goes about communing with spirits because he isn't really communing with them. He's basically provoking them in order to try to lay them to rest, but it's not very peaceful. So the main character befriends this boy at school who can see ghosts and can hear ghosts when they're in trouble. They come to him for his aid, and he is visited by her deceased mother, who is telling him that her father is in trouble and needs help. And so these two kids who are in middle school take a big trek to the Hush Falls Holler to try to figure out what's going on with her dad. So there's a lot of ambiance around this one. There's a little bit supernatural element to this one. But overall, it's pretty great so far. There's a little bit of spookiness. There's some independent kids going around. So far, it's not like the scariest you could get. So it's like in the middle, I would say. And I'm also reading Beetle and the Hollow Bones by Aliza Layne, which is a graphic novel about a goblin and her friend Blob Ghost, or BG for short. And Blob Ghost perished in the mall where the goblin girl likes to hang out. Blob Ghost goes by they, them, and so Blob Ghost, they're stuck in the mall. And so the goblin is really trying to figure out how to free them because her friend's aunt has purchased the mall and wants to put her big old haunted mansion back on that property. So they don't want Blob Ghost to go away and they want to help save them. So that one, I would say, is probably for our older middle grade readers, but also for graphic novel fans. So, moving on to books that I'm excited to read about and keeping in with the graphic novel aspect of it, I'm super excited to read Witches of Brooklyn by Sophie Escabasse. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. This one is about a main character named Effie who loses her home and then she has to move in with her aunts, which I'm guessing are like witches or witch adjacent, and Effie's going to learn about magic and stuff. So, I don't know, witches in Brooklyn, I'm in, right? So that's a graphic novel that I'm looking forward to. And then also another graphic novel is Seance Tea Party by Reimena, and I mean that title alone sells it. So Seance Tea Party is a graphic novel in which main character Laura is still determined to have fun after watching her circle of friends seemingly fade away. And then when she is at a tea party that leads her to discovering Alexa, who is the ghost that haunts her house, she and Alexa soon become best friends. And I mean, if that doesn't sell you on this story, I don't know what will, because it just sounds like such a cozy fall read. And the covers of both Seance Tea Party and Witches of Brooklyn, I saw them and I was like ordering this book immediately. I am also looking forward to reading Embassy of the Dead by Will Mabbitt, and that one is about a character named Jake Green who is dead, or he might as well be when he mistakenly accepts a package from the Embassy of the Dead in this hilarious adventure of the afterlife, the first in a series. And I was really looking forward to this book because not only is it cool when a series starts off and you kind of get in when it's just getting off the ground, but I also like the idea of mixing spookiness with humor. So we kind of get that in Ghost Squad 2 with like this 80s humor and references mixed in. So Embassy of the Dead, I'm also really looking forward to. And I get really sold on book covers, and this one, the hardback, has such a cool spooky cover with like a graveyard stone that says RIP, stuff like that. So I'm here for the humor and spookiness. And then I'm also looking forward to reading The Girl and the Ghost by Hanna Alkaf. And what's really interesting about this one is that it's actually based on a Malaysian folktale. And Goodreads calls it emotionally layered, chilling, middle grade debut. And it says it's perfect for fans of The Book of Boy and The Jumbies. So if you're a fan of either of those two books, holler at this one. So this is The Girl and the Ghost. And this one is about a girl named Soraya who is delighted when her witch grandmother gifts her a pelicet. She names her ghostly companion Pink, and the two quickly become inseparable. But Soraya doesn't know that pelicets have a dark side, and when Pink's shadows threaten to consume them both, they must find enough light to survive before they are both lost to the darkness. So if that doesn't give you enough ambiance for spooky, I mean, we're here for it. And that one is also recommended for folks who are fans of Holly Black's Doll Bones and Tahereh Mafi's Furthermore series. Keeping on with a little bit more graphic novel action, I did check out kind of an oversized graphic novel. It's pretty much like an 8.5 by 11, but beautiful colors. It's called Mason Mooney, Paranormal Investigator, and that is by Seaerra Miller. And this one is obviously about a paranormal investigator named Mason Mooney, who is heartless, both figuratively and literally. And he's on a mission to prove to the Paranormal Society that he's the best paranormal investigator around, but they're not so sure, and they're not the only ones. So we're invited to join Mason as he tackles ghosts, witches, and grumpy teenagers to prove once and for all who the real talent in the world of paranormal creatures is. That one sounds really cool. Like, it could be action-packed, and again, I was really attracted to the cover of this book, which has kind of a darker background, but then all these like bright colors and stuff too. It looks really cool. So that description really reminds me of a tried and true favorite of mine, the Lockwood & Co. series, which is a series of 5 books by Jonathan Stroud that I just devoured probably 2 and 3 years ago now. And that one is also about some teenagers who get to run around the UK. They get to run around England and solve really creepy ghost mysteries. So read those. All right, also looking forward to reading Midnight at the Barclay Hotel by Fleur Bradley. And this one is about J.J. Jacobson, who convinces his mom to accept a surprise invitation to an all-expenses-paid weekend getaway at the illustrious Barclay Hotel. But he'd never imagined that he'd find himself in the midst of a murder mystery. He thought he was in for a run-of-the-mill weekend ghost hunting at the most haunted spot in town, but when he arrives at the Barclay Hotel and his mother is blamed for the hotel owner's death, he realizes his weekend is going to be anything but ordinary. So I don't know if there's going to be some supernatural in that one, but I'm still here for a murder mystery, which feels kind of cozy for this time of year. And all the way from Wales, we have The Clockwork Crow by Katherine Fisher, and this one is the first one in a series, and I believe there are 3 already published, but this one is newly purchased for the Ferndale collection. And it's about an orphan named Sarah Reese, who is on her way to a new life at the remote country mansion of Place-y-Fran when she is given a package by a stranger late at night in an empty train station. The package contains a crotchety, mechanical talking crow, which Sarah reluctantly brings to her new home. But when she gets there, the happy Christmas she had hoped for turns out to be an illusion. The young son of the house, Tomos, has been missing for almost a year, rumored to have been taken by the fairies. With the crow's reluctant help and a little winter magic, Saren sets off on a perilous journey to bring Tomos home. So I love the cozy elements of that mystery, talking crow, kind of a remote Welsh mansion. Alright, so honorable mentions. I already squeezed in Lockwood & Co., but it wouldn't be the spooky season if I didn't shout out the Small Spaces series by Katherine Arden. The first one of which is called Small Spaces, the second of which is called Dead Voices, and these ones are filled with so much cozy and creepy ambiance, I can't even begin to tell you all. Small Spaces deals with a trip to an orchard, farmstead type of deal where an evil force is trying to turn everybody into basically vacant scarecrows. That was like perfect for fall, and then Dead Voices kind of transitions us to the winter months and takes place at a haunted ski lodge in the middle of a snowstorm. And then if spooky isn't your thing, I totally understand that, so probably one of the tamest of them all that I could probably mention today is the Story Collector series by Kristin O'Donnell Tubb, the first of which is called The Story Collector, and the second one is called The Story Seeker. And this one is about a little redheaded girl named Viviani and her 2 brothers, and their family lives in an apartment in the main New York Public Library branch, and the stories take place in 1929. So they're very historical in nature, full of historical phrases and expressions and stuff like that. And so in the first one, which we're actually doing for Upper Elementary Book Club for October, is about Viviani feeling like there's a ghost haunting the New York Public Library, and then also this really world-famous stamp collection and a really rare stamp in the midst of it comes to the library and goes on display, and then it gets stolen. And so she and her friends set out to solve this mystery. And the really cool thing about this book, The Story Collector, is that the end of it gives a lot of pictures and historical notes on the New York Public Library in the 1920s. So if any of my readers out there are interested in historical fiction, this one is for you, and it's got that cozy element of a mystery. So these are the spooky books that I would recommend for this season. If you want any other recommendations, please hit us up at info@ferndalepubliclibrary.org and let us know what spooky kids books you're reading this year, be it a picture book, a reader, a graphic novel, or a chapter book. Let us know what worked for you this season.